Oh, okay. Sorry, I was just getting in the mood for my upcoming trip. But we've got a lot to cover to stay on track in information security, so I'm going to rip through Chapter 9 with you really fast. Chapter 9 is a pretty straightforward topic. Physical security is probably the easiest to talk about because it's the kind of security we can touch, lay our hands on, and really dig into. So let's get started. All right, Chapter 9, the learning objectives. We can't talk about everything with regard to physical security, but we can cover the highlights and some of the essentials in terms of threats and just physical access. Fire safety is surprisingly more important than you might think with regard to information security and security in general. And some other things we can do to protect the environment. I'll try to give you some examples. We always start off with some definitions, and of course these are test-worthy definitions. So physical security is the protection of physical items. So a physical item would be a laptop, a server, objects or areas. So an area we want to protect is certainly just access to the corporate location or any of our locations, back office areas, network closets, and from my perspective, data centers are what we really care about in terms of preventing people from having unauthorized access or misuse of a data center or your server room, whatever room houses all of your IT components. So physical security is as important as logical security, might even be more important than logical security. Logical being the kind of software stuff we do to protect the file permissions, the cryptography and encryption that we talked about last time. Physical security is a little easier for us to talk about just because Hollywood has provided so many great examples of physical security. One would be like the first Mission Impossible movie, Tom Cruise. Remember him hanging, from strings because there are heat sensors in the floor, and he's trying to get to the data center, and they're monitoring temperature and weight on the floor, as well as logical access to the computer system he's trying to break into, and he's hovering there, not trying to make any sound or any movement or put any weight on anything. And yeah, just one kind of radical example of physical security. I think this is a sort of odd list of the 7 major sources of physical loss. That's why I have it in green. This is not something I would test you on, but it's certainly something to be aware of, again, in case you're trying to protect your data center from Tom Cruise. Another great test question is the difference in responsibility for security between general management and IT management. There's typically a clear dividing line, whereas for information security, we care about both. So general management cares about just walls, locks on doors, locks on offices, a security guard up front checking IDs, lighting, locks, dogs, outdoor lighting, alarms, burglar alarms and such. IT management, and this is what most of you will be doing, what I did for years and years, is protecting access to the server room, the data center, and then our computer assets specifically. The challenge for information security management is it's a blend of both. You're doing risk assessments and reviewing security policies and procedures for both areas, general management as well as IT stuff. And this became very clear to me when I was co-locating a lot of my servers this is for a small data center I had to bring up for a healthcare organization. And the safest place to co-locate our servers was at Charter's head end. So the head end for any cable company is their main data center. And this is back in North Carolina, not St. Louis, where there's also one in St. Louis, but in North Carolina, it was a hidden location. There was no signage pointing to, hey, this is Charter's main data center, because you don't want to advertise where it is. Similarly, for Lowe's, they didn't advertise where their main data center was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Anyway, it's easy to see with Google Earth. So there's not that much security. At the same time, you had to have a passcode to even get down the driveway. There were walls around it, concrete bunkers, dogs, I'm not even kidding, barbed wire over the walls, roaming lights, lighting up the place outside at night. Not unlike the beginning segment of Hogan's Heroes, if you've ever seen on. If you've ever seen an ancient sitcom from the 70s, just an example of physical security, and then to get in the door, I had to identify myself. There was a camera before they'd even let me in to do any maintenance on my servers. They were very protective of physical security. Before I leave this topic, other issues why we chose Charter some of them were IT related. So, for example, the amount of bandwidth that Charter could give, because I was plugged directly into their back-end core switch, so a 100 gig connection. Bandwidth was not a problem. Redundant bandwidth, also an IT thing, but then redundant power and redundant cooling. These are things that if you're trying to do on your own, it gets very expensive. But we would just pay them a monthly fee and piggyback off of theirs. Before we get too deep, let's start with a silly example to look at an overview of physical security with some, I like silly videos. Anyway, here we go.
Hi, Larry. I seem to have left my ID badge at home, so I can't get into the office. Do you think you could let me in?
Sure. You can just follow me in.
Thanks for letting me in, Larry. Oh no, I've left my laptop in the car. Can I borrow your ID card quickly?
I guess that's okay.
Thanks. I'll be right back. Jackpot. Let's see what we got here. An unsecured laptop and some cash. An unlocked screen. Profit looks good. I think I might buy some shares. What else? Password, confidential data. Ooh, some car keys. Nice. Okay, time to make my escape. Identify, Larry. Access granted.
Why does it sound like Star Trek?
Alert. Service shut down. Thanks, Larry. Alert. Service shut down.
Oh dear.
So the first mistake Larry made was letting somebody tailgate or follow him in. This is difficult for me because I grew up in the South, and in the South you're always a gentleman. You hold the door for actually for men and women, but especially ladies. It's an act of chivalry. It's an act of security stupidity to hold the door open for somebody. Let's see if there's anything else. Any other advice? Follow all those procedures with all vendors. Never give out your badge. Oh my God. Clear workspace. Just a quick badge story. Number one, don't do this ever. But I'm giving it as an example of poor security. So at Lowe's, you had to show your ID badge before you could park in the corporate parking lot. And the process for this was you had to pull out your badge. It had a photo on it, that bright Lowe's blue and a badge number, and you had to show it to the security guard. Well, what happened is the security guard would get lazy and would just kind of look for that blue badge and wave you on through. So a couple of times I forgot my badge and I had to, and it's embarrassing because you have to get the guard to call your boss and, authorize you to enter the parking lot, and you go in the door and everybody laughs at you because everybody knows what you did. And an employee said, "Oh, by the way, all you have to do is make a photocopy of your ID card." And like, what? Like, yeah, just, photocopy and just, I've waved a Visa credit card at the security guy and he waved me through. It's like, well, I'll, maybe just in case. So I, did a color copy of my badge and, just taped it to um, some kind of little card. And I left that in the car just for emergencies. And one day I forgot my badge, and it was a 30-minute commute to work, so it's not like I could just easily turn around and go back home. So I whipped out the fake badge, waved that at the guy, and come on in. That's bad security, right? We recognize that's bad security. Don't do that. So how about another silly video? Physical security in 2 minutes.
Thought of by many as the sole responsibility of security guards, employees frequently overlook physical security, often leaving corporate data and facilities wide open to attack. Here are a few steps you can take to help keep your organization and data safe. Don't play follow the leader. Tailgating is a common tactic employed by an attacker who will pretend to be an employee, contractor, or repair person in an attempt to gain entry to a secure building or work site. Never hold the door open for someone who does not display the proper credentials, even at the risk of seeming to be impolite. Watch out for the sneak peek. Shoulder surfing occurs when an unauthorized individual tries to read information over another's shoulder. Be mindful of this if an unfamiliar person is in your work area or when working in public. Stay locked and loaded. Every time you leave your desk, whether for a coffee break or a lengthy meeting, always lock your computer screen. Keep your area squeaky clean. At the end of every day, secure or properly dispose of any sensitive material you may have used throughout the day. Clear your whiteboard of any sensitive data, and lock all drawers in your office door. Do the printer sprint. Make sure to retrieve any sensitive data from a printer immediately after printing to avoid it being picked up by an unauthorized individual. Don't copy confidential. Avoid copying sensitive personal information on company copy machines, as that data may remain stored in the machine and be accessible to others. Start a conference room clean streak. Following a meeting in a conference room, remove all traces of your meeting, including deleting any computer files placed on a shared computer and logging out, erasing all sensitive data from whiteboards, and removing any paper documents brought into the meeting. With these simple steps, it's easy to make physical security a part of every employee's daily routine.
Nice. By the way, did you jot down those tips? I would, if you weren't taking notes while you're watching the video, just jot down all those tips because I might pull something for the next test from that video. You never know. Totally fair. Okay, remember the word control that we kept using in the last few chapters? We're not done talking about controls, so just as there are controls for your network, your intrusion detection and protection system, IDPS system is a technological control for the network. For physical security, we have controls that are both technological and managerial, whether you want to call it managerial, operational. I tend to think of it as just process control. And a control is just a way to manage and ensure that you're doing a process correctly each and every time. And these are some examples. Some are obvious. Some are not as obvious. I'll show you some examples here. Certainly one of the most common physical controls is an ID badge, but I already gave you a story where I was able to defeat the system by making a duplicate. And if all it takes is a photocopy or a color photocopy to duplicate an ID badge, well, that's poor security. There are better forms of identification than that. And we've talked about tailgating plenty. Normally when we're doing this face-to-face, I ask about why don't I have to wear an ID badge at SIUE? Why do you not have to wear an ID badge? I mean, you have an ID card, but you don't have to wear a badge outside for everybody to see that you are who you say you are. Is that because SIUE doesn't care about security? Well, we care very much about security. However, it's probably not the most important thing on campus just because we have visitors all the time and it would be probably very difficult to manage. So physical security, I would say, is managed not at the campus level, but more at the building and even departmental level in terms of accessing places we don't want you to go. So you can't just wander into HR over in Rendleman. You can't wander into payroll. You can't wander into my office unless I was a dummy and left my door open. Although if I do leave my door open because I'm stepping away, while I certainly, if you've been to my office, I do not observe any kind of clean desk policy, I do put anything sensitive away in a locked drawer. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. In order to have good physical security, you've got to have great checklists for every process, and one of the most sensitive procedures is employee termination. You will have to deal with this on a regular basis, especially if you're working in security. Part of it is the obvious stuff that IT people think of. Well, I have to disable their login account, I have to disable their VPN account, I have to disable their email, all of their electronic access, but especially remote access, right? Just turn that off first. In fact, some people turn off access before the person finds out they're fired, and that's how they find out that they're fired, because they can't log into the system anymore. But of course, getting all the physical stuff, the objects, the physical items from the person before they leave, don't let them say, oh, I left it at home, let me run home and get it for you. You've got to take care of it immediately. Getting their badge, all of their keys. Parking puck is like a little plastic black thing you hang in your car that a lot of times will automatically open up access to a garage, for example. Absolutely have to get their laptop immediately from them. The 4 categories of locks. Great test question: manual, programmable, electronic, and biometric. A manual lock is, you turn a key. The last 2 are great because you have an audit trail of who went through that door, who gained access at what time. Now, as long as people follow the right process of never loaning out their card like stupid Larry in the video, you have accountability. Locks can work in one of 2 ways, where they fail-safe lock or fail-secure lock. And it's a matter of whether default, in the case of a loss of power, you want the door to lock or open. So in the case of a fire, you don't want everything to automatically lock because people are going to die. At the same time, if the default is to, with a loss of power, automatically unlock, then you're in a situation like in the first Die Hard movie. Great movie.